What we discovered was really shocking. Not only are these top-line numbers somewhere between $180 billion and $280 billion in fraud under Gavin Newsom in California.
You cannot bill Medicare for hospice without being licensed by the state of California. Those licenses are issued with no checking.
This company had a death discharge rate of 85%. When you go to hospice, you're going there to die. You're not supposed to have an 85 survival rate coming out of your hospice facility.
Do you have anything to say about those charges?
I don't know anything.
Have you got anything to say about these accusations? We've been investigating for 4 years.
At least $180 billion gone, possibly $280 billion. Not mismanaged, not misplaced, gone. So the dead is basically coming back to life in California. We're not talking about a small oversight. I mean, we're talking about no oversight at all. We're talking about a system that is so broken that everyone with ears to hear are now calling it an empire of fraud. And so the simple question is, how does this happen in the most taxed state in America? Good afternoon, beautiful people, and welcome to Nelly Miranda. As always, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. Okay, so according to a new investigation from City Journal, California didn't just have fraud. It may have had systemic, widespread fraud across nearly every major program. I think slickback Gavin Newsom has Tim Walz beat. We're talking about unemployment fraud, healthcare fraud, welfare and Medicaid abuse, COVID relief fraud, and even homelessness programs. Fraud in all of them. And the number is at the very least, $180 billion potentially stolen from taxpayers.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, we had 4 reporters working on this story for a number of months, and what we discovered was really shocking. Not only are these top-line numbers somewhere between $180 billion and $280 billion in fraud under Gavin Newsom in California, but when you dig into it and you read all of the court documents, the indictments, the other investigations, we found out that virtually every criminal group on planet Earth has been looting the state of California. Romanian international fraud rings. You had rap groups in Memphis, Tennessee. You had neo-Nazi prison gangs. You had people actually in California death row applying for fraudulent unemployment benefits. And what we found is that essentially every criminal group saw that Gavin Newsom was opening the floodgates of state spending. They could take whatever they wanted, and he's losing now an estimated up to $50 billion a year to fraud with no end in sight.
So fraudsters and organized crime rings exploited California programs on a massive scale across multiple systems. $180 billion been stolen is insane because that is more than the GDP of some countries. It is enough to fund entire states. And while all of this is happening, while all of this money is being stolen from taxpayers, California collects some of the highest taxes in the country. So the key takeaway here is that the whole system in California appears to be failing.
It was really like a willful removal by California of all the kinds of checks and balances you'd want to have on this system to prevent fraud. It seemed like the idea was just, we want to get cash out to people as fast as possible. And if fraud happens, good for them because they'll probably be glad for us and vote for us.
This dates back more than 10 years, where Democrats have systematically dismantled all of the fraud protections that had been in place and then rejected any attempt to even do a basic audit of these programs. And so California Republicans, who are in a very small minority in the legislature, have been calling for audits, for legislative action, for further accountability. Democrats are going the other way, though. They're saying, actually, we want to reduce penalties for fraud. We talked to one legislator who says if Democrats get their way in this next session, they'll have essentially legalized welfare fraud in the state of California. Look, this puts money not only into fraudsters' pockets, it puts money into the union pockets, it puts money into all of these interest groups that California Democrats rely on. Fraud is perversely good for Democrats, even if it's bad for taxpayers.
Fraud may be good for Democrats, but it is not good for everyday Americans. But I will tell you what is good for those who are 65 and up and on Medicare. Chapter. Many seniors may not be on the best plan suitable for their needs because there are so many different plans, so many different coverage and cost. And though I am sure you guys try to do your research, But the government websites are so confusing. So for only 20 minutes of your day, Chapter will walk you through all of your options and make sure that you are getting the best plan that fits your needs. The call is completely free. You have nothing to lose but everything to gain, including a peace of mind. Imagine an emergency medical situation comes up and your current plan doesn't even cover it. That would be a nightmare. So again, if you are on Medicare and you love yourself as much as I love you, please dial 646-817-8160. That is 646-817-8160, or go to askchapter.org/Nelly. Now let's get back to the story, because I know you have heard or believed that during COVID there were no rules. The only rules that existed were vaccinations, masks, and social distancing. So during COVID, California rushed to send out money. The system was already vulnerable to fraud, and yet millions of dollars were still pushed out the door with little to no guardrails at all. And you never guess what happened next. Fraud claims flooded the system. The hospice care fraud in California is the most damning. Investigators uncovered fake hospice companies billing Medicare patients who weren't even terminally ill. Some of these businesses were registered to empty offices, linked to suspicious networks, and billing millions in fake claims.
They get a hospice license from the state of California. You cannot bill Medicare for hospice without being licensed by the state of California. Those licenses are issued with no checking, no vetting. In fact, this couple has a criminal record, so they couldn't get the license, so they just put it under their daughter's name, but they continue to operate the hospice under their daughter's name, and they billed Medicare for over $4 million, and no one did anything about it until we arrested them.
Well, I might go get a license myself. Everybody seems to be getting in on it, but they better keep their eyes peeled because the FBI is starting to crack down.
Early morning, Southern California. FBI SWAT making simultaneous arrests of hospice owners accused of bilking millions from federal taxpayers. Do you have anything to say about those charges?
I don't know anything.
Have you got anything to say about these accusations? We've been investigating for 4 years. That husband and wife, he a doctor, she a nurse, do business as St. Francis Palliative Care out of this high-rise office, accused in a criminal complaint of enrolling hundreds of patients who do not qualify for hospice, but billing the federal government as if they did.
Who would suspect a doctor and a nurse duo, right? I mean, I wonder how many more nurses and doctors are committing this fraud and is being overlooked since there's really no oversight in place. When you think about a doctor or a nurse, you think about someone who's supposed to help people, heal people, care for people, do good. There's a level of trust that comes with that. But what we're seeing in some of these cases is that the moment you put a dollar in front of certain people, that moral compass disappears. And that is exactly what makes this so disturbing, because this isn't just fraud. This is people who took an oath to care for the vulnerable, and instead they turned those same people into a fraudulent paycheck. It's sickening. Hospice fraud pays so well with no oversight that you can run your own hospice company from prison. Take a listen.
But here's how they got caught. All of the terminally ill patients weren't dying.
Lolita Minard, a 65-year-old woman in Anaheim, she ran a company named Topanga Hospice Care. She billed Medicare for more than $9.1 million over a 5-year period for the care of supposedly terminally ill patients. This company had a death discharge rate of 85%. When you go to hospice, you're going there to die. You're not supposed to have an 85 survival rate coming out of your hospice facility. That is 5 times more than the national average of 17%.
Yeah, everyone's dying to open a hospice center, but these fraudsters can't stop. They're addicted.
Ida Palma, 76 years old, 3-time convicted healthcare fraudster who's actually in federal prison. She's charged in a new case because she perpetuated a new hospice fraud while she's in prison. That is how egregious and bold some of these fraudsters are.
I do not believe that the fraud in California is accidental. The system appears to be built on fraud. Dr. Oz is saying that they are going to investigate every hospice care center in California, and I really hope they do, but the real question is, do they have enough staff to verify every single hospice care facility in California? Governor Gavin Newsom is blaming this crackdown on Trump's administration and saying that the fraud isn't a California issue, but rather a national one. Take a listen.
We're going to review every single hospice in California to make sure that they're all appropriate, and we hope to do that expeditiously. We'll do it this year.
During the news conference, federal authorities were asked about this video California Governor Gavin Newsom said his office was reviewing back in January. Oz, who is Turkish-American, stood in front of an Armenian-owned bakery in Van Nuys alleging widespread fraud in the area. Asalee confirmed none of the defendants named today were connected to that video. Dr. Oz responded to the outcry that his accusations, which the business owner denounced as false, were discriminatory.
I was stating the facts as they've been explained to me, and we have a lot of evidence of where the fraud is just looking at the numbers.
Oz did not provide any evidence against a specific business in connection to that video. Today, he suggested half of LA County hospice care facilities are fraudulent, pointing to survival percentages as evidence.
World experts at CMS say if you've got 100% or near survival, certainly if you've got a survival over 50% for population that's supposed to have passed in 6 months, you've got a problem.
Governor Gavin Newsom responded to the accusations the state has not done enough, saying in part, the Trump administration, home of the biggest fraudsters on earth, is trying to blame California for issues with their federal programs. His press office said California has taken action for years, including suspending more than 280 licenses and banning new ones.
So even if fraud was a national issue and not a California issue, why are the numbers so high in California? Why were so many warning signs ignored? Because remember, experts flagged vulnerabilities before the money went out, and yet the money went out anyways. So is this just bureaucratic incompetence or a policy problem? And how do you think that we could fix a system this large without slowing down help for people who actually need it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you'd like to further support my show, please head over to the website and order some merch. The designs are clean, simple, and intentional, and they say statements that we regularly say here on the show. And if you want to wear something that says something like follow the money or where's the oversight, please head over to NellieMiranda.com and order some merch. And if you got any value from today's video, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to support the channel and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.